I mean, what happened there? I just don't understand it. I made all the right moves. I winked. I smiled, one of my nice ones as well. I sat down very nicely, leant forward, put on my special eyes and said, "Hello, big tits, looking for some action?" And what did she say?
I think she said no, didn't she?
That's right. No. Blasted lesbians everywhere. And so started an adventure.
Well, technically it wasn't the first one recorded, but still.
It's the first one we all saw.
Yeah, it's the first
so,
one that was aired in September 17th, 1991. That's how old Bottom is. Plus, you add on the several years that these two have been together, which the DVD for Bottom Line Minus Violence came out in 2004. So add another, what was it?
It's 25 years from that point.
Add another 12 years on top of that. So we were looking at 32 years.
So we'd probably be saying they would have met up in sometime the late 1970s at college before they did the 20th Century Coyote venue.
Yeah, then went to the comedy club, then did the comic strip.
That's right. And that all came from 20th Century Coyote, which is, of course, where they did all their main routines. The most famous one, of course, with them playing the Dangerous Brothers shouting about how a gooseberry could enter a lift. I can't remember all the words to that one, but that was brilliant. I can't believe that's where it all began.
Knock, knock, who's there? Open the door! What are you talking about? Yeah. I can't...
Open the door, who?
Open the door, I want to come in! On the Telegraph website, apparently, out of all the sitcoms, Bottom is considered the most underrated of all time.
Well, yeah, it is, because
I never saw it as underrated. Yeah, I agree. According to this article, the Young Ones represents the creative peak, but I think that's the creative peak of alternative comedy.
It is, and then, of course, they carried it on with Filthy Rich and Catflap, which, while they pulled it off the same sort of way they did for the Young Ones, it just wasn't quite as successful because it seemed to rely more on comedy of the time, which meant that while it worked back then, it doesn't really work as time goes on.
Yeah, it's a product of its time.
But
Young Ones and Bottom...
With Bottom, on the other hand...
It expands that.
Yes, it expanded what they did with the Young Ones, and it kept only the certain aspects of Filthy Rich and Catflap that did work, and they kept it going, and very much like Filthy Rich and Catflap, which had one of the other members of the troupe from the Young Ones, in that case it was Nigel Planer, they brought Christopher Ryan back for another part in Bottom.
Yeah. To this article, there's one paragraph here. It said, to the naysayers, Bottom is just two blokes smacking each other over the head with a variety of blunt instruments while talking about sex in a manner of pubescent boys. To the fanatics, it's an absurdist, violent masterpiece with echoes of Samuel Beckett. The truth is, it's probably a bit of both. More importantly, it's really funny. And that's,
it should kind of be up there with Fawlty Towers and Yes Minister, I think, and Steptoe and Son. It's sort of up in that level, just with the violence.
Not the same level as Only Fools and Horses. That's like the pinnacle of British comedy.
Oh, yeah, it just doesn't get higher than Fools and Horses, no doubt.
Yeah.
But you could say that with the way Steptoe and Son had the verbal violence between the dad and the son, which it was like they were constantly at war with each other, but verbally. Bottom was where it got physical.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like there's only so much insults you can take towards your own personal being and your own sex life, which according to Richie, he has none. Although he does make it up.
Yes. Though he does constantly write books about it with extremely long titles, but not really any story.
Richard, I did it my way. On my own.
On my own.
Quite a lot. Now I've got a sore hand.
Exactly.
One of the things that kind of irked me, I heard this from Ben Yahtzee Croshaw on one of his little podcast Let's Play, about how he watched some Americans react to Bottom. I don't want to find the video because I was angry as well. And they're watching the episode Gas. And one of these teenagers went, I feel really uncomfortable when Richie was going under the covers to look at the girl and look at the woman. And to me, it's like, why the hell are you trying to relate yourself to him? These,
Yeah,
these,
that's kind of the whole point. This guy is a totally unpleasant sleazeball who nobody wants to be.
or wants to be around. He wants to be.
Nobody wants to.
We've gone on about all this. We haven't talked about the actual concept of the show.
I mean, think about how. I mean, just think about what Eddie says to Richie. Take it from me, I'm your best friend. You are a sad, unpopular, friendless ass head that everyone you have ever met would prefer if you were dead.
Yeah,
That's who Richie Rich. That's no, not Richie Rich. That's Cat Flap, isn't it? Richard Richard.
yeah, and
Fucking names are so close together, you know.
yeah. We've gone this long and talked about the concept of the show, but that we say it's just two guys in a flat who don't particularly like each other, but then again, like a married couple, they can't live without each other.
They are completely inseparable, regardless of how much they want to be apart.
And they are pretty much diametrically opposed. Like we said, Richie is just an unlikable arsehead. Yet he wants to be the center of attention. He wants to be this great guy. Like, yeah, Richard, he's the greatest. And yet, no, he isn't.
No, he's not. He's totally unpleasant, and he tends to freak a lot of people out. Like, you can see that in later episodes. You know, when he first meets Spudgun and Hedgehog,
He
don't.
scares them.
Yeah, at first they're not afraid of him really. I mean, they're just sort of like, yeah, we're looking for Eddie. But when you get to series 3 and you watch episodes like Doe, as soon as he opens the door, they like slide past him and very quickly escape into the lounge. And then throughout the whole scene, they never take their eyes off him. They're like watching their backs every second. It's kind of terrifying.
They're like cats, really.
And yeah, until finally, like, Hedgehog finally freaks out near the end, and he's like, I don't know anything, I haven't been thinking at all. Eddie, help!
Eddie is talking at us again.
Yeah.
And Eddie character is like, carrying on with Richie, is like, also about Richie is, he's still a virgin. He could be in his 40s by that point. He hasn't had sex. He really, really wants to, although, mentally he has had sex. Especially mentally.
Oh, yes.
Locked himself in the cupboard with a copy of amateur photographer and a jar of hand cream.
He's got the biceps to prove it. Well, the bicep.
Yeah, and gets his ass kicked by Robert Llewellyn.
Yeah, Nikki and I met Robert Llewellyn once at Memorabilia, and we talked to him about that scene. And he was talking about how when they were rehearsing it, Rik Mayall kept telling him to get closer to his face to make it look more believable for the camera. And finally, when they did the big part when Richie walks towards him and he does the numerous punches at once, and then there's a massive thwack at the end, according to Llewellyn, he actually hit Rik Mayall really hard in the face in that shot. So that's why they had to cut to Tight Mouth Larry. They had to stop recording for a minute because I think Rik Mayall got a nosebleed.
It's amazing how much our lives kind of represent a round bottom, because during the recording of the Guest House Paradiso review, ironically, I hit you in the head.
Yeah, you did, but you didn't break my nose, thankfully.
No, I think you only broke my finger because you got a really strong forehead.
Yeah, thanks. I still got the scars, man. That was years ago, but I still got the scars.
You're welcome. And the Eddie character, he's like more loved. He's the guy you want. He's the guy you want to have a drink with. But the thing is, how do I explain it? I'm trying to work out how to explain Eddie and his drinking problem.
90% proof. I don't think it gets any better than that, does it?
Oh, has it been drunk once?
Trouble is, it's lasted 17 years so far. Exactly.
There's so many funny lines.
Yeah, and every single one of them, regardless of how many times you watch those 18 episodes, that's just 6 episodes more than Fawlty Towers and The Young Ones, and 2 episodes more than Mr. Bean, and there's not one time where you can watch it and not giggle.
Yeah, I do think Contest has the least amount of laughs.
Yeah, but in some ways it still kind of works on a sort of Fools and Horses level, where you're sort of looking at it like, a failed friendship in a way. You like the bit where they're talking about you get born, you keep your head down, then you die if you're lucky. That's the sort of line you'd expect from Fools and Horses.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then they go into Bottom where they say, well, otherwise there's the telly. Or there was, because they've smashed it.
Yeah. Another thing about Eddie, apparently he is diametrically opposite to Richie, because Eddie has had sex
Many times.
many times, especially with one of Richie's girlfriends. I'm surprised.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised he even had a girlfriend.
And he did it to Richie's date as well.
And his date, yeah.
The terrifying Helen Lederer. Sorry, but you can't look at her eyes for long.
What's her full name?
Lady Natasha Letitia Sarah Jane Wellesley. I'm on Stromsky, Pomsomsky, Smythe, Oblamov, Boblamov, Dobb, 3rd Viscountess of Moldavia.
Sounds great.
We'll have half a dozen. I feel sorry for that woman. I mean, that's the only... That was a short scene that she was in, but she had to memorize all of that and not laugh at their faces.
No. Even anyone listening to this now, I am trying so hard not to recite. We're doing a quote here and there, but it's so hard. I mean, some people live to do movie quotes. We live to do young ones and Bottom.
Yeah, next time I'm out in the States, Dan, we've got to reenact some of these the way Eddie and Matt did, because, there's no better tribute than that. But thing is, I think I've learned so many lines of Bottom. I actually know every line of Culture, and that includes Eddie's lines.
I know every single line from Bottom Life 3, because that's the one I've seen the most.
Yeah, I haven't caught all of those lines yet. Because sometimes, in a way, when you're trying to recite the live shows and that, it's kind of difficult, because sometimes, particularly Bottom Live 2, there's a whole routine that was Lost because Rik Mayall forgot to put a prop on, one of his watches,
Yeah. Then there's also all the fuck-ups.
Exactly,
Alan Rickman, eat your heart out. God rest him.
And you?
You?
Want to give it a feed line again in front of all your friends?
That's that's a 10-minute fuck-up. 10 minutes!
And they managed to keep the show going after that.
Come on, they'll be closed.
Stop laughing, imagine you're watching Ben Elton or something. Oh yeah, that's the way to mock the co-writer of The Young Ones.
Yeah, three series, seasons, if you're American you're watching this, 3 seasons, 6 episodes each, a movie and 5 live shows. Three of them are really good, 2 of them are kind of mediocre, 4 in particular has its moments, but 5 kind of goes downhill after the first half. Yeah, because it's just reciting everything of the second half of the 4th one.
The problem is, I think the 4th one does kind of work in its own way. I mean, the way it goes fourth wall for the second act of the 4th one, it is kind of good. But by the time the 5th one came along, I just felt like the 2 of them had enough.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people felt that way.
I think they reached their strides. How many more fart and sex jokes can you do from 2 sad men?
Yeah, I kind of think that. Being a Jerry Anderson fan, I can kind of say that Bottom Live 5 is kind of the secret service of the Bottom Live shows. It's the point where they've kind of gone too far, that they're not going to get any... They're just going to keep going downhill. This is, like with Jerry Anderson, after they did Thunderbirds, once they got to Captain Scarlet, they knew that every show they made after that was just going to get worse. And that's kind of what happened with Bottom Live 5. I mean, Bottom Live 3 was really good. Bottom Live 4 sort of got through it, but then Bottom Live 5 near the end, it just, Yeah,
we could have.
And I think they knew it.
We could have got Bottom Hooligans Island, the TV series, but they decided not to because Rik Mayall said we're not old enough to do it yet. We need to be the damn phone. Really?
Yeah. Of course, Adrian Edmondson didn't want to go through the script. He wasn't a fan of the script, and he just didn't think it was working out. He and Rik Mayall just couldn't keep working together for that moment, but they did plan on coming back. And then, of course, sadly, Rik Mayall passed away a few months later, which kind of put a spanner in the works on the whole thing.
Yeah, and this is kind of this is really a tribute to him as well, because there's a few celebrity deaths that really get to you. This one got to me.
Yeah, and no one even talked about it much. I mean, like, you know, they had what's his face, the guy on TV who nobody likes.
Piers Morgan.
No, not Piers Morgan. Jeremy Paxman, I believe.
Okay.
White hair.
The other git.
Yes. Basically, they had him talking to this woman who was a fan of Rik Mayall. But he just kept asking these silly questions, like, as if he was basically trying to figure out why people like Rik Mayall, but not in a way that it would be, say, John Sullivan, the writer of Fools and Horses, when he passed away. No. Instead, he was sort of like, what he was asking is, what is it about this guy that is special to people? Instead, he was saying, how can anybody like someone as immature as this? That was the way he was delivering it. I don't know if that was what he intended, but he just seemed to play Rik Mayall down as childish humour, which is, the guy was more talented than that.
Yeah, immaturity. That's what people liked about him. He was very eccentric.
But he was also a very talented guy who could shift from that immaturity to more mature stuff, like children's material, King Arthur's Disasters, when that used to be on, he was the star and he did quite well in that. And Wind in the Willows, when he was Mr. Toad in those two specials. Willows in Winter in particular, his performance got him an award.
Yeah, not to mention even though there's going to be the dividing point, Drop Dead Fred.
Right, well, I was just commenting on a video because David Rose of Mr. Coat, he'd imported the British Blu-ray of Drop Dead Fred.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah, and I wrote a comment on there just tonight saying, R.I.P. Rik Mayall, there were a lot of problems with that film, but none of them were you, which is true. Like, Rik Mayall did his job. It was like the rest of the film that didn't quite work as much.
No, it's because even though his character was meant to be very over the top, because he's imaginary friend. It's just like near the end when the character almost dies. It's like it's very sullen. There's no enthusiasm, no over the top snarky comments. It's like really sad moment of the entire film.
Thing is, that's the thing about Rik Mayall. He could do that, but it's just there wasn't a lot of balance. It's because, it was at a time where Bottom was really successful and Rik Mayall was doing the New Statesman, which I haven't seen much of, but whenever I have watched it, you really do feel the power of Rik Mayall in the room, because that's one of the shows like Flashheart and Blackadder. That's one of the shows where he's the winner. And as a result, yeah, it's quite successful. There's even a Bottom fluff, if you remember, where they made a joke about the New Statesman.
The New Statesman is #1 comedy on the box.
Yeah, and who says the sport is full of shit?
Yes, my paper.
Kevin Kelly, our eye on the telly. Thanks, Kev. But yeah, it's like things like that, It's obviously the guys at Hollywood assumed that, like Jim Carrey, he could just put Rik Mayall in a room and make him do funny noises and they'd make the money. But no, that's not. Rik Mayall isn't Jim Carrey. It doesn't work like that with Rik Mayall. He can do all that silly, babbly stuff, but he's got to make it funny, and he can only make it funny if it's written well. And the Drop Dead Fred, I don't think it was.
No, he tried.
But I did find out recently, that show, Man Down, where Rik Mayall was playing Greg Davies' dad? It's the sitcom he did before he died.
No, I haven't seen that one.
No, well, I've not seen much of it. I've just seen the Rik Mayall clips, but basically, I heard Greg Davies say on the Graham Norton show that when he phoned, excuse me, he'd done a pilot with Rik Mayall as playing the dad, and he picked up the phone to Rik Mayall, and Rik Mayall answered it by saying, "Hello, Greg, you fat prick." And when Craig Davies said, "I just wanted you to know that we've been cleared for a show," and Mayall said, "Well, why should I be excited about that?" And Greg said, "Well, you played the dad in the pilot. I thought you'd want to play the dad in the show." To which Mayall then said, "Oh, well, in that case, congratulations." But I found out recently, I was watching a clip, and I thought that it was Rik Mayall again. But it's a greased-up guy called Bob, who's freaking out a lot. I only saw a brief clip. And he sounded so much like Rik Mayall in the clip, and he looked a bit like Rik Mayall, but it wasn't Rik Mayall. It was Mark Hamill, who, as it happens, dedicated the performance to Rik Mayall. The guy would watch Bottom in the 90s. Just remember that next time you watch Star Wars. Luke Skywalker watched Bottom.
Well, Mark Hamill plays the trickster in the Flash TV series. And he plays it really well. He actually does the Joker voice as the trickster.
I think he does that voice for one of the elementals in Crash Rapid Cortex, doesn't he?
Not really.
I
played through that. He kind of doesn't.
Yeah, and it does, kind of doesn't. But anyway,
going back at the bottom, so I'm trying to remember some of my favorite. I think nearly every episode I just enjoy. I can sit down, watch it, and laugh. But our favorite, definitely our favorite is Culture.
No doubt. Like I remember every single word.
It's because it pretty much that is our favorite. I guess the unanimous favorite. Like, everyone remembers, anyone we talk to who knows Bottom will say the best episode they've ever written is Hole.
Well, it is a really good episode with the idea that it's the two of them stuck in one scene throughout the entire episode, a whole half hour stuck on the top of a Ferris wheel. Like,
yeah, that's the reason why it works so well.
You'd think that a scenario like that, it wouldn't work, but it does.
Yeah, because it's pretty much... Like, you heard of the concept of a bottle ship. The
yes.
concept. That's
like Red Dwarf's episode Duck Soup was one of them, but that didn't work as well as this.
Nor did it work as well as Marooned in Series 3.
No.
Like certain episodes, it's just them in the flat. That's when it works the best. But when you introduce like new locations and new characters, it sort of wavers. Still good, like
Gas.
Oh no, Parade.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
Parade is a good episode, but it's not as strong.
No.
There's like, I think it's three spawn of them to enter a three-legged blind horse here, and he's in a tree, and he's down. I don't know, back with go to the leaders. I don't know, back with Sad Ken now. I'm afraid they've had to shoot him. Yes, Sad Ken has been shot.
And so was the jockey. Spud Gun's face when that happens.
Oh god! And he keeps it through the second parade as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Dan. After our podcast, I'm going to have to show you some of those YTPs because, like, the parade one in particular is a classic. But we'll carry on for now.
I'm going to have to cut that bit out.
Yes, I'm sorry. I had to mention that.
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out what my personal favourite is.
What was in scene?
Episode.
Well, I can't really say for sure. I mean, obviously, we know Culture really well. I can't say for certain that it's the absolute best episode.
No.
But I'm starting to warm up a lot to Bottoms Up because of all the stuff that happens in the shop and then when they're on the roof. Some of the sound effects, for instance, like 2 sound effects from that episode, which just have me squealing with laughter every time. First, there's that one. Oh god, just laughing my ass off thinking about it. That horrible, cringy sound effect when Eddie opens the attic roof door and it smashes Richie in the face.
Oh,
that crunch sound effect.
Like a pack of celery being crunched all at once.
It's a horrible noise. It's like the funniest sound in the whole episode. It's like.
I know. Trying to remember all. It's like only 18 episodes, but it's really hard to remember all your favourite scenes. Bottoms Out is definitely one of my favourites.
That fight just makes me laugh every time. And the dart, like when he hits him over the back of the head with the mallet, and the dart bounces around the entire common until it flies into his ass. The way they shot that was just brilliant.
I don't really cut out for this dad hunting this pigeon. The only thing anyone eat around here was a bloody hedgehog. There's only one hobnob. There's 27 hobnobs he's had. No wonder he shits like a Great Dane.
You see people, like, the amount of stuff we can remember.
It's like, yeah, it's like, again, people live for movie quotes. And you do quote movies all the time. It's like half of them you don't get. Like half of them you do. Bottom, not a lot of people are going to get it, but we do.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, that's all that matters.
Yeah. It's kind of,
It's
is
funny.
it an inside joke or is it an inside joke?
Yeah, whatever that means.
Inception quote.
Souvenirs.
We're pretty much trying to do Inception here.
Yeah, the words bottom and inception don't quite go together.
How deep are we going? I don't. No. Sorry.
Ew, sounds a bit rude. Oh, sorry, that's Filthy Rich and Cat Flap again.
Yeah.
I tell you what, though, I found that a lot of people talk about the bottom episode Finger the least. It's not a bad episode in any way, and it's got some really good gags, but for some reason, that's the one that people refer to the least. Not a lot of people mention it.
It's one of Sarah's favorites because Eddie dresses.
I mean,
Eddie dresses in drag. I think that's the
And
pinnacle. That's the pinnacle joke of it.
well, no, I mean, some of the shots are really good, like the way the camera focuses on Richie when he does the impression of Cannonball Taffy O'Jones shouting, "You ignorant English wanker." That was Scottish. It was supposed to be Welsh. And then stealing the car, the fact that
Cow. That was a bit rude, wasn't it, Richie?
no, it was a cow.
Ah.
And like other lines like "bastard, roadhog, I was driving on that bit."
It's like little jokes. It's like when he gets to the hotel and Eddie's in drag, it's like some of the jokes afterwards. It's like, yeah, Richie trying to have sex with the maid, Eddie trying to have sex with the maid.
I do love that bit though when all we see for about 5 minutes is Eddie unconscious, and they go into the bathroom, and then all of a sudden he's awake and he's aware of what's going on. My wife doesn't understand me. I think you'll find I understand you only too well.
Here's this in the show, like, you were trying to pork her.
They don't beat about the bush with their choices of words in that show, and I think that was brilliant.
They don't.
And 'twas he, gentlemen? Let me think. Diddly do. What is a top-class swanky tipple?
Depends where you come from, sir.
Oh, well, I come from Hammersmith.
Half of mild.
And then when the other guy walks in, the half a pint of whiskey.
That's for me.
And the glass of brown shit with fairy liquid on top. Glass of brown shit with fairy liquid on top. I mean, if I said that at the hotel I work at, I'd be thrown out.
It's got a few moments at like when you get to the hotel and afterward. It's like during the hotel scenes, it's just like you have 2 or 3 jokes that are funny, and the rest is kind of like,
Yeah.
Most of the comedy comes from the first half.
Yeah.
If that's the reason why.
I also know that there's a lot from the show that has its legacy, like inspirations from other works, like Eddie Bowley, for instance, when he did the Ed Egg animated series, there was a time where the characters went to a restaurant, which was the Marveloso Splendido, which is the name of the hotel in Finger.
Mm.
And often when he picks up pieces of paper, it's got things like "There's books" written on them, which is another reference to culture.
Yeah, and the dough part. So when he throws money at the screen and they actually have pictures on it. What's this tomato?
Oh,
that's not a tomato, that's the Queen's
right.
face. You've got to dine right first.
Better get the shape right first, Eddie.
That is Welsh money.
Yeah.
Those are the Queen's jugs.
What?
They're the Queen's jugs.
Eddie. A, the Queen doesn't have jugs, she's royalty. And B, if she did, she certainly wouldn't get them out of the back of a fiver. Certainly not, she's serving with a 50.
Well, you better look at my 50. I think you find it a bit rather more risque.
Oh, God! That's disgusting!
Yeah.
Oh! Eddie, that's tantamount to treason. How could you expect to pass off these pornographic doodles as real money? Especially when you see what the Duke of Edinburgh's up to on the back of a tenner. Who's that with him?
Meryl Streep.
Oh. Hang on, she's got 3 knockers.
No, that's probably Charlton in the middle.
What?
You see what we mean? It's just we always quote this. It's just so easy.
I know, but the best part is when we're doing things like this, it's like when we are reciting it, it's like, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, how did they write this shit?
I don't know. I want to know. I want that inspiration to actually do it. But again,
It's like
the bottom is our inspiration.
it's like how when we were watching Red Dwarf years ago, and you were always talking about how they always used to come up with a funny analogy for something like I'm not speaking quickly, I'm speaking perfectly normally. It's you. You're speaking too slowly. It's like listening to Paul Robeson on Dope. I looked up footage of Paul Robeson. He's got a very low voice, so I kind of got the joke there. But still,
Unless you're Peter Serafinovich, in which case he can do a very fucking low voice.
he can do whatever voice he wants. The guy's a genius.
He's playing the Tick right now in an Amazon series.
I've seen the clips. It looks really good. I mean, he's done a lot. I mean, he was Darth Chef in South Park. He was Darth Maul, at least the voice in Phantom Menace.
And a bit role in Guardians of the Galaxy.
He's done a lot that we haven't noticed. But didn't he work with Rik Mayall at one point?
I think he did.
I can't remember where though.
I would try and search it up, but I don't know spell his fucking last name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna even fucking attempt it.
Well, I know that he was in Shaun of the Dead, which was Simon Pegg, and of course Simon Pegg's first movie role was Guest House Paradiso.
Oh yeah,
Isn't it sort of connected?
He was Pete.
That's right. Who ends up as meat. Since we're sort of talking about Bottom and Guest House Paradiso is sort of Bottom, maybe we should talk about that a bit, because we've not really mentioned that much.
Well, there's not much to mention really about the movie. It's like it's basically the concept of what if Eddie and Richie owned a hotel, and that's what made the script.
Yeah, it's sort of it did sort of fall for the same fate as a lot of popular sitcoms of the time, where they thought that if it worked really well as a sitcom, it should automatically work as a movie. It
Yeah,
don't always work like that.
this one sort of was a bit better, saying okay, it's not the same kind of continuity, it's a different continuity, but you could have just made a fourth season and just have each individual plot point be its own episode. Pretty much, I'm
Yeah,
pretty much repeating myself from the review I did with Morgan.
you are, but that doesn't matter because I starred in that as well.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, it's there's a lot that didn't work in that. Like they only had one fight scene, which is one of the most okay. It's like the thing is, Bottom is not the kind of show where it's boring unless there's a fight scene. It's not like that. There's always hilarious humor, and as soon as they start raising the fists, like of course it's going to be funny because of how gritty it is. I mean, just watch the episode Bottoms Out, where the way they like try and kill each other over frigging hobnobs. Like,
Pretty much.
I mean, he
It,
stabs him with a tent pick. He gets a tent pick in the eye. He punches metal, and they end up kicking each other in the bollocks and knocking each other out because they dropped the hobnobs in the pond. For fuck's sake!
yeah, I think that's one thing people take away from Bottom. Is like it's a lot of violence. It's like the violence is funny because it works, and the sound effects are fucking brilliant. Not the best sound effects used because Ed and Eddie still has the best sound effects usage of all time.
Hang on, Double D. I'll think of something. Okay, you're like just a wolf howl for no fucking reason,
Or
or
the
when he's
oh
smiling.
the phone call going Ilio, Ilio.
The Tarzan thing, yeah. It was a yodel. That's
It
it.
was a yodel for a fucking telephone. But the violence in Bottom is like that's not the main thing. It's just as part of the interaction of the characters.
I do notice
In Guess
though.
of Paradiso, that's probably the best scene of the entire film.
Yeah,
Next
and
to the previous scene, we're going beep one boiled egg, which
yeah.
works better on a full screen than it does on the widescreen. The widescreen one kind of ruins it.
No, I don't think it did.
No, I prefer the full screen version.
I thought the widescreen bit was kind of funny where you watch, where you can actually see the pencil going into Eddie's eye. I mean, that was disgusting, but it did kind of work.
Okay, it has that.
I sort of know what you mean, but no, well, that's the thing, you see. When it's like a movie and that, it's, widescreen. it's in another format that you don't recognize for the kind of show that it was. But like, it's just some of the other things that they can do to make their shows memorable, like Holy, like, oh, it's a Christmas episode, so what? We're gonna have some really nice Christmas themes? No, let's have Richie chop his finger off.
Let's do the kind of faux nativity, which you're expecting like about a big message that remember the birth of Jesus Christ, baby Jesus.
Ah.
And
that scene was a stroke of genius, with the fact that he just happened to pick up the blue towel. Everyone was wearing crowns and they were offering presents. Like, that was written so well that was actually almost up there with John Sullivan's writing for Fools and Horses. That was so cleverly done, because it wasn't until Richie himself made the connection that everything fell into place. And you can tell that the audience had just figured that out as well, because of the way the laughter escalates when he is saying gold, Frankenstein, and grr, and you're all wearing crowns. And then there's like that big pause and everyone has just twigged and they're all howling with laughter, and he just goes, and I'm a virgin!
I thought you said you weren't.
Well, I know I am, really. I was just fibbing to look hunky.
Never worked, did it? It's because I think the entire series only had two, I guess, quote unquote, specials. One was Holy, and one was Terror. Terror was good as well.
But Terror was more like its own show, wasn't it? It wasn't exactly like a holiday themed episode.
It's like, it's Halloween. Oh, good, now I can dress as a devil and shit my pants.
Yeah, and Eddie can dress as a banana.
Because why not?
I just love how deadpan his response is, though. It's like, why are you dressed as a banana?
They didn't have any pumpkin outfits left.
He seemed to say it like, I love the way he said it, because when you think about it, next time you watch it, I think you'll agree with me. The way he says it, it's like on the journey back from the costume shop, he's probably been asked that question 100 times by passers-by.
Yeah. Why just
so
banana?
By the time...
Because they didn't have any pumpkin outfits. Why just banana? They didn't have any pumpkin outfits. Why just banana? They didn't have any pumpkin outfits left.
Yeah, it's like, I've said it a million times, this is what has happened.
Kind of reminds me when people ask me, how the hell do I draw Sonic so good? I just do. I practiced.
Yeah, like, how can I draw Tintin? Because, like, I've been drawing in the clear line style since I was, like, 13.
Yeah, never.
And
Little PSA is never ask how an artist does what they do. They did it because they did it.
Yeah, and I didn't have any classes or anything like that. Do you want to know what I did? I read books, Tintin books. They're awesome books. Just not the Congo one, that's a little bit fucked up.
Yeah, to wind this podcast down, because we're getting off topic several times.
Well, yes, but that sort of does happen, doesn't it?
Yeah, it always happens. It's worse when I do podcasts with Nikki. Much worse.
Yeah.
He's probably watching right now. Just mention his name. Hi, Nikki.
I'm sorry.
The wind all down. It's like Bottom should be more celebrated as a comedy. You don't have to get it. A lot of British sitcoms you don't have to get. You just laugh at the humour.
I don't think a lot of people outside the UK even do get it. I think they just, they've seen one show from Britain that's really popular, like Doctor Who's quite big at the moment.
As far as comedies, Monty Python, that is the equivalent to British comedy.
Well, the thing is, like, we've always said that America is really good with their movies and stuff, but Britain are the winners of comedy, of television comedy, because,
aside from South Park, obviously.
Oh, yeah, but that's not really a sitcom. That's sort of an animated sitcom, which is a different category.
Yeah.
Then, of course, there's Family Guy as well, which I think has really picked up recently.
Yeah, I've watched the early Family Guy, and bloody hell has it aged.
Yeah, I tried watching season 3
Do you know how
awkward?
You know how awkward it is to listen to Lacey Chabert?
Yeah, I know.
I've been playing Sonic 06. She's Princess Elise. I have been trying to hold back on saying "Shut up, Meg."
You should do that if you ever get around to reviewing that.
I've been Let's Playing. I've been have a couple times.
I need to check those out. But yeah, I tried watching season 3 of Family Guy yesterday, and I couldn't bloody do it.
You can't like 4 onwards. It picks up.
Yeah, like you can't watch it unless you start with North by North Quahog.
Hmm. Then there's back to the pilot, which is pretty good. But anyway,
That was brilliant.
yeah. Bottom as a sitcom should be more celebrated and shouldn't be compared to any others other than it's what Rik and Eddie have done before.
Yeah, you need to like look at it on the same level that you would have done with the young ones. But the trouble is, like, a lot of people are starting to walk away from the young ones now with the advent of more advanced comedies like Mrs. Brown's Boys, which is dodgier than what the young ones was at the time. But let's not forget that there was a time where Trey Parker and Matt Stone, creators of South Park, weren't allowed to watch Monty Python.
Mm.
But, times have changed, and a lot of people are starting to regard even the young ones as tame. But we've got to remember that these were young guys who came from a comedy background where, like, the likes of Yes Minister and Till Death Us Do Part were about as dodgy as you could get. Like, if it wasn't Till Death Us Do Part, it was always the reserved posh totty comedy like The Good Life and occasionally things like Fawlty Towers and whatever Monty Python were doing at the time. Like, they changed comedy. They brought alternative comedy around. Paul Jackson, the producer, mostly did that because he then went to commission loads of people and give them chances, including Red Dwarf.
Mm.
But these guys continued to use the same humour. The thing was, this is one thing about Bottom Line 5 that I really liked, and it still holds true. A lot of people who've seen these shows do kind of regard them as samey, but this is the thing. It worked in the young ones. And they tried to do it differently with Filthy Rich and Catflap, and it didn't work. So when Bottom came along, they went back to portions of what they did with the young ones. Eddie himself says it in Bottom Line 5. Stick with what works.
Yeah, you can change it depending on the times, but if it works and people continue to like it, then do it. But you do have to change up a little bit because it can grow stale.
Yeah, but for the most part, that's what they did.
Yeah, and far as physical humor, I don't think there's any other comedy out there where you can see someone get hit in the face with a frying pan and not laugh. So other people just like, oh, hit him over the head with the frying pan, he's back up again. It's like, that's not really funny. With Richie, he'll come back up with a broken nose. With the tissue.
Yeah, and maybe, oh yeah, he's always got the tissue. And then, of course, like, there's characters who do the little river dance while his mate is being sick in a latrine on a tropical island.
Oh,
things like that.
Oh, look. Knackers.
Bang!
What a beautiful day! Just the usual dilemma. Should I get drunk now, or should I get very drunk now? Or am I drunk already?
That's the thing, actually. Yeah. I just thought, all these people who you were saying like were finding some episodes awkward to watch.
Hmm.
I'd love to see their reactions to the live shows because they were like 10 times dodgier than what the live shows, the actual show was doing.
They say the word fuck so many times.
Yeah, well, they weren't restricted by the guidelines of television because they weren't being shown on television. They could do whatever they wanted, and
not to mention how many times did he did it? 28 times kicking the bollocks. I think it was more than that. I counted. I can't remember how many.
And they brought on a sex doll, didn't they? Which was named Monica.
They brought like two sex dolls.
And they got them to have a sex party, which was quite funny because then Richie does the voice for one of them saying, "Would you like to put your hand up my skirt?"
You only got me pissed first, Richie.
It's like they change it around, and the wordplay as well. It's like, Eddie, have you got the wrench?
No, it's just the way I was walking.
Or, no, it's just the way these high trousers are a bit tight, and all the things like that. It's like, they always come out with them. And some of the other lines, like, you haven't even mashed the potatoes. Where is the potato masher?
Well, Harry, I'll do anything for half a pint. Grundy still got it.
Has he? Has he still got it?
Yeah, they couldn't get it out of him in a hospital, remember? Anyway, I see your point.
Why, my trousers falling down? No, they're up. I can see they're up. Oh, I see your point.
Oh, my trousers falling down? No, they're up. I can see they're up. Oh, I see your point.
Why, have my trousers fallen down? No, they haven't. They're up. I can see they're up. Is it? Oh, I see your point.
Why have my trousers fallen down? Help! Help! We're caught in some kind of knob-gap Bermuda Triangle.
Knob-gap Bermuda Triangle.
Change routine, change routine.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Go and watch Bottom. Watch all 3 seasons. Watch all 5 live shows and the movie. Pick your favourites. We could just recommend the TV series and the first 3 live shows.
Yeah, like personal favourite episodes, Culture, Carnival, Hole.
Yeah, Culture, Carnival, Hole, Bottoms Out.
Bottoms Up.
Bottoms Up.
In fact, yeah,
I would say Apocalypse is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me as well.
Gas, of course, because...
Gas, all of them are classics in their own right. If there's so many, you can think of like, what's this scene from? Oh, it's from that episode. Oh, that's a good episode as well. It's like you can mention like, Smells is the first episode, and you don't really mention it until you think of one scene. It's like, oh yeah, Eddie gets drunk off pheromones.
And with it just being 18 episodes, it's easy to pinpoint which episodes your favourite bits come from. Like, of course, Gas, like
Eddie and Richie in the sex shop. That's the best joke of the entire episode.
Yeah, and it's like there is just no way that anybody can watch the Gas episode and just not laugh at the wide eyes on Richie's face when he first goes, "Hello, Mr. Gas Man," because he's trying to alert Eddie that the gas man is at the door because they've been stealing gas from the neighbours. And it's just his eyes when he's shouting.
One of the American reactors actually mentions it, saying, if they're kind of stupid, how did they actually siphon off gas? He's like, you're not meant to logically dictate this. You're meant to laugh at the situation.
It's about the situation. It's not about how they got there. It's like, would you apply logic to the Three Stooges? Like 3 guys who can fall off a building and transform into dummies before they hit the ground? I mean, really?
No, you don't.
No. It's
a sitcom, situational comedy. Doesn't matter how they got in, it's just they're gonna get out of it.
Yeah, it's just the description. Right, you've got different kinds of comedy. Situation, hysterical, historical. This one, homicidal.
Physical,
homicidal comedy. And very, very funny.
So go and watch it. You can find it online somewhere. Just buy it on DVD, import it from the UK.
You don't need to import it from the UK. You can get the complete series on DVD in the States.
Can you? Great.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Go and watch it.
Now.
You bastards.